Eric Brewer. Hi, Eric. Eric is a pastor and a good golfer, Heidi.
Dr. Eric Brewer is going to talk today, Mom, about navigating death and loss, life transitions, trauma, and faith. Dr. Eric Brewer is a grief counselor and the pastor of Transformed Church Global Ministries. He is also the director of field education at Howard University and the author of the groundbreaking book, From Grief to Growth. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you for the opportunity. Well, great morning, everyone. And I want to thank you, Doctors Gloria and Heidi Horsley and the Open to Hope staff for this opportunity to share on International Day of Hope and Healing. It is truly an honor to stand before you today and speak on a topic that touches each of us at some point in our lives, navigating death and loss, life transitions, trauma, and faith. Death and loss are universal experiences, yet when they strike, they can feel deeply personal, isolating, even overwhelming. Whether you are grieving the loss of a loved one and facing major life transitions or healing from trauma, I want to assure you that you are not alone. There is hope, there is healing, and through faith, there is renewal. I want to tell you my story. I've been pastoring for over 20 something years, and where I pastored, it was in Hackensack, New Jersey. It was ground zero for COVID-19. I am a COVID survivor, but I also became a COVID widower. I lost my late wife of 21 years. And so I had to go through my own grief recovery. And I had to lead a church while the church was grieving, the community was grieving, this nation. It was so much loss doing services and grieving myself. And I had to take a sabbatical. I had to step back. And I decided to go back to school and get my doctorate. And I was trying to figure out what should I study. And men were being referred to me from around the nation who had lost their wives. And so I started a support group for African American men who have lost their wives, eventually to all men who lost their wives, because grief is universal. And I had to process my own journey and help my daughter to go through her grief journey. And today I want to share three key areas that I learned that will help us to navigate this journey. Number one, understanding the impact of loss. Number two, embracing the process of healing. And number three, relying on faith as a foundation for resilience. Grief is the deep emotional response to loss, particularly the loss of someone or something we deeply love or value. It is a natural yet complex process that affects people emotionally, mentally, physically, and even spiritually. And so grief is love in another form. Grief exists because love exists first. It's not just about sadness, it's about the love that remains even after a person, relationship, or a phase of life is gone. Grief is a journey, not a destination. There is no timeline for grief. Some days are easier than others, and healing does not mean forgetting. It means learning to live with the loss in a new way. Grief can be unpredictable. It does not allow a linear path. Some days you may feel strong, while other days a memory, a song, or a familiar scent can bring a wave of sadness. Grief is personal. No two people grieve the same way. Some may express it openly, others, it may be privately. There's no right or wrong way to grieve, but grief can be transformative. Though painful, grief lead to personal growth, deeper empathy, and a renewed sense of purpose. Over time, it teaches us resilience, gratitude, and the value of the love we have shared. And so let's talk about understanding the impact of loss. Grief is often described as a storm. Sometimes it comes in waves, and other times as a sudden downpour. Some days it feels like just a rippling effect. Some days it feels like a tsunami. It affects us emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Some of us may feel deep sadness, anger, guilt, or even numbness. Others may question God, their faith, or their purpose. Even Jesus experienced grief. We find this short as yet one of the most powerful verses that Jesus wept. This was at the death of his dear friend Lazarus. It shows us that sorrow is not a sign of weakness. It is natural part of being a human being. It is natural. It is normal. It is necessary to grieve. And so even though so many people say, well, I'm going through this stage of grief, I've read Dr. Kubler-Ross' book on the author of death and dying, and the 5 stage, I'm in denial or anger or bargaining or depression, acceptance. But she was writing that to those who had experienced, they was on hospice care. And while these stages may provide some insight to the grieving process, but it's a journey. Grief is not linear. And so people move through different, through the stages or process. The emotion, the way a person emotes can be so different at different times. Most people are functional grievers. Let me just pause right there. You are functioning and grieving at the same time. And it's okay not to be okay. An inspirational quote that speaks to this truth comes from Helen Keller. Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming it. So you have to decide, are you going to be an overcomer? Because grief does not mean that we are stuck. It means that we are in the process of healing. And so we have to, number 2, embrace the process of healing. Healing does not happen overnight. It is a journey that looks different for everyone. In Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1 says, to everything there is a season. Go down a few verses, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. One of the most important things we can do in this process is to give ourselves permission to grieve. There is no right way to mourn, and there's no set timeline. We must allow ourselves to feel, to express, and to process the pain without guilt or shame. Another step in healing is finding community. Grief can make us withdraw, but healing happens in connection with others. I believe it's Alan Waldorf that says companion, support groups, counseling, trusted friends, and family can provide strength when we feel weak. And we must learn to honor the memory of what we have lost while moving forward. We're just not moving on. We're going to move forward, intentionally moving forward. That could mean creating a legacy for a loved one, starting a new chapter in life, or turning pain into purpose. A powerful quote on healing comes from author Rumi. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Our brokenness is not the end of the story. It is the space where transformation can begin. Number 3, we have to rely on faith as a foundation for resilience. Someone asked in a chat I just saw, is there another word for recovery? Yes, resilience. Faith does not eliminate grief. Let me say it again. Faith does not eliminate grief, but it gives us the strength to endure it. Psalm 34, verse 18 says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit. God does not leave us alone in our suffering. He walks through it with us. When we experience loss, our faith may be shaken and we may ask difficult questions. Why did this happen to me? Where was God in my pain? How do I move forward when I feel so broken? And these are valid questions. And God welcomes our honesty. Even in his deepest suffering on the cross, Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Yet through that suffering came the ultimate victory over death. So when we lean into our faith, we can find hope in these truths. God is our refuge and strength. God is our refuge and strength and an ever-present help in trouble. We are never alone. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. There is eternal hope beyond this life. We will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain. As the great theologian C.S. Lewis once said, hardships are often prepared ordinary people for extraordinary destinies. Let me say it again. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Our faith allows us to endure suffering with the knowledge that God is still working even when we cannot see it. And so as I come to a close, We have to find purpose in the pain. As we walk through grief and loss, we must remember that pain does not have the final word. Our sorrow can be transformed into strength, our suffering into testimony, our loss into a renewed purpose. God has taken my pain of being a widower and helped me to build a platform to minister to other men and to lecture around the world about grief. If you're grieving today, I encourage you to give yourself grace. Healing is a process, not a race. Stay connected. You don't have to do this alone. Trust God's timing. He is still working in your life, even in the season of pain. One day, joy will return. One day, laughter will come again. Until then, may you find comfort in God's presence, peace in his promises, and strength in his unfailing love. I have found life again. I have found the time to laugh again. And even I found love again. I'm remarried to a wonderful woman, Judge Tiffany Williams Brewer, who's also a professor here at Howard University, where she's at the law school. I'm at the divinity school. I believe she filled out the application so she can have a driver to work. But I leave you with these final words from Maya Angelou. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. Thank you for this opportunity, and God bless.
I've learned that it helped me to help others, to know I'm not the only one, put one foot in front of the other, find a life.
Adding hope to the darkness, you start on the trip to recovery.
Reach deep down inside and say, I am going to live on.
We laugh, we cry, and remember.
Hope without action doesn't work. Hope with action can change the world.
We always say, if you've lost hope, please lean on ours.